Three, two, one.
All right, welcome to another installment of the Fragments Silicon Reviews. Two games up this week. First is Forgotten Anne. Um, if you recall, we did an interview about this game on Tuesday. Um, if you missed it, well, you can just go into the archive and go listen to that. But for those who might not be aware of the game, um, it's basically a cinematic platformer.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I suppose, I suppose the definition of what a cinematic platformer needs to be laid down because they're not the most common type of platformers, especially these days. Like, you saw them a lot more in the 90s. And once again, this is something that came up in the interview, but it's basically a platformer that applies real-world movement and physics to its gameplay. So, Anne moves like a real person, jumps like a real person for the most part.
Yeah, it's all animated. It's hand animated, but it's animated in the style of
Uh-huh.
an animated movie, and of those, like the old Disney Bluth ones that had really realistic movement because we're somewhat rotoscoped.
Mm-hmm. I don't think this one was rotoscoped.
I don't think so, but it's that same sort of style.
Yeah. It's just like the first ones, Prince of Persia, chief among them, were rotoscoped, fully rotoscoped at that, and that's where the whole style came from. So, and this one does continue on that with that legacy, like for good and for ill, I suppose. Mainly because, yeah, it can be cumbersome. I'm not gonna lie, and looks a lot more fluid than it actually is. Chief among them, there's no animation cancellation. Like, the animations are canned, and that's actually a bit of a problem because Anne is just, quite frankly, over animated. This game is over animated. I get why that is, but things move to the detriment of gameplay at times. It's nothing game breaking, but you'll find that Anne response time and movements are bogged down by the fact that she has to do these animations, over and over again. There's no way to frame cancel, and it will start grating on your nerves after a while. It did mine because I just kind of wanted her to move and jump when I was pushing the buttons. Yeah. Like I said, it comes with the territory. Especially, and how do I put this? Like, some of the jumping doesn't match either. Like, let's say, ironically, when Anne jumps, it kind of looks like, especially the wing jumps, kind of looks terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, it cracks me up, honestly, because
looks kind of stiff.
yeah, it's like, I mean, stiffness is kind of the name of the game here. But like I said, it's nothing particularly game breaking or you know, it's just it's one of those things that you won't notice from just looking at the game
It
because
does make it. It does even look kind of slow.
yeah, it can like it's kind of hard to impart how slow it can be at times. And mind you, the gameplay also leans in that direction. There is precision platforming at times, but the bulk of the gameplay is going to be figuring out puzzles. And
Mm-hmm.
the puzzle solving is average at best. Like,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, kind of fell into the realm of busy work more often than it should have.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like I think the puzzles got the most inspired at the end when you were like there are these doors that have these symbols and you move them around. Like those things kind of felt like some long lost Wii motion gimmick. But you know, it's like when the platforms actually started resembling those, it got a bit more creative. But yeah, it's like the main focus of this game is really its narrative. Like maybe this game would have been better served like going full walking simulator or something like that.
Perhaps. Yeah.
I'm not saying it's just yeah, buying this for like the actual gameplay, I wouldn't recommend actually. Like it doesn't really do anything special in those regards. You know, it's you know, its preening focus is really its visual style and the story it's trying to tell. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, a quick recap: you are not surprising. You are Anne. You are the enforcer of this realm, um, a depository for lost objects called the Forgotlings. Like, somehow when an object gets forgotten about, well, kind of nebulous on you know how things get forgotten. I mean, there's a lot of questions here that I can't go
Mm-hmm.
into because of spoilers, but um, you know, let's just say there should be more humans here than Banku and Anne.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but yeah, because you know they are basically forgotten humans, and yeah, there is a story behind each one of those. Like, but here's the thing: like, um, humans get forgotten about for a variety of reasons as well, and there's not really an explanation as to why these two were particularly special. Like, and it's one of those questions that can take you out of the narrative, since you know a lot of this world wasn't quite as realized as it should have been. But once again, I can't really go into the particulars without going into the deeper details of the story, and um, really can't do that since the story really is the draw here, or the
Mm-hmm.
visuals. Music too, as um, this soundtrack is fully orchestrated, um, done by the Copenhagen Philharmonic. So you know it's well worth getting the soundtrack, and it is available. We'll go into the details a bit later on that, but you know, it's like on a presentation level, top marks certainly. Um, it's um, it's just the gameplay is pretty rote, and continuing onwards, it's the morality system. So, yeah, this game is also centered around a morality system where you can make choices and they have consequences. And I assume everyone knows how this rolls out by now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it is more shades of gray than say a BioShock. Like, it is definitely more than Mother Teresa and the devil or whatever. Uh, but once again, this game does poor choices. Like, I I really want to rail against this, but it's one of the biggest points in the story. But
Mm.
eventually, this game will do something that really undermines one of the core moral tests.
Hmm.
And this was just stupid. Like, I, it I, it actually infuriates me because a lot of dramatic weight was taken out of some of the choices. It's not all along those lines, but ye gods, no, that was not a good choice from a consequence standpoint.
Hmm.
But and the moral system does have the failing of a lot of moral systems in that a lot of it does come down to the last choice. Like the ending you get, the major ending comes down to the last choice of the game. And everything else is based off of like the flavorings around those two choices. Although, since this is an autosave game, um, if you want to see the other ending, for example, you've got to go through the entire thing again. Um, once was enough. You do get like a card at the end. I'm also willing to bet that there's a true final ending here. The way things played out, like it's very visual novel esque, is what I'll say.
Hmm.
I'm like, right. So I've been doing the majority of the talking. So commentary from the peanut gallery.
Yeah, the controls are kind of stiff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are.
Like, people who were watching the footage would notice I was having a hard time with a little bit of a jumping puzzle there was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah. Screwing up, especially, it will take you longer to recover than it should.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
And, like, some of the whole moral choice things or what's used to progress the plot sometimes isn't clear.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when the lamp dude in the station, I can't remember if he's a lamp or a clock or what. I don't know
Clock, I think.
what exactly they were wanting me to do there, other than I just by chance tried to distill him and he was like, "Oh wait, I'm the mole." Ah,
Yeah, I ran into that same problem.
because
Yeah,
there's
I went
I'll
about
say,
there.
yeah, that moral choice was one of the weakest ones, mainly because, um, well, the rebels will get pissed that you distilled one of their own. It's just the way the game frames it. Someone was getting killed here.
well, I let him live. I stopped before I actually took everything out of him, but it's still I had to basically try and distill him to even progress.
Yeah,
There
that's
was
Yeah.
no dialogue options to make him confess without basically attacking him.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And like for a game that touts about its narrative and non-combat gameplay, I literally had to almost rip the life out of some dude to progress the plot. That
Yeah.
kind of goes against the whole, you know, point of the game.
Well, it's like
Yeah.
you can exert power if you want to.
Mm.
I'm like, uh, but like I said, uh, that kind of ties into late game stuff. So I really, really want to rant about it. So you know what? I'm going to throw up a spoiler warning here.
Give me 1 second to put something on screen before you do that.
Yeah. All right.
Where is my button? Stand by, folks. I don't have it in this one, do I?
Okay.
Text. Add
All
existing. Spoiler warning.
right. So. All right. So we good here?
Uh,
All right.
1 second.
Just a moment here.
Yeah, it was an old one.
I know. Still gonna
There,
find
I have it. There, it's fixed. Spoilers will be discussed.
Okay.
All right.
I
So
think you're good.
So if
when
you
the
don't want to hear
spoiler,
spoilers, jump to after that thing disappears, and we're good.
yeah. Right. So very rather late in the game, the Arca gets the power to bring life back.
Oh
This
boy.
was dumb.
Yeah.
This was goddamn dumb because all of the fucking sting of consequences of taking lives outside of that clock on the that's the only one. Like if you drain his life, you can't take it back because they get rid of the body. Like for example, the beginning rebel. Um, even
Yeah,
if you drained him, you can bring him back to life. Like in fact, when you get like the life powers, a optional quest is reviving all of the rebels that are around. I'm like, yeah, it's like
that's a
this is
big
the
cop out.
yeah, this is the Dragon Ball Z coefficient. Don't fucking introduce a get out of death free card. If you want your deaths to have weight.
Now I could see if it was like a temporary thing, you know, to get information out of them.
Uh-huh.
That'd be one thing, but like, oh yeah, you're alive now. Don't do that bad thing you did before.
Yeah, like they're still trying to have narrative weight behind the drain aspect of the Arca, like in order to infiltrate the tower for the final assault, you have to drain Fig of his life essence again. Like he actually dies at some point, and indeed restoring him is the point where you discover that you're basically God. Like not even joking, you literally have the power of life and death in this world. Like I
Yeah.
really didn't think that the theological underpinnings of that particular um, instance,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's like I guess distilling is still unpleasant, but it's still like, yeah, you're not dead anymore, and there's, it's like all of the sting here is gone. Like, it, once again, it's not a game breaker because I will say the final choice is whether to stay in the world or leave the world, and yeah, the whole reviving thing doesn't play into that, but it's still, you know, it's like there can't be consequences when there are no fucking consequences, or the consequences end up being a fucking misdemeanor. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I've got that off my chest, we can move on. So
All right, let me take this spoiler thing off.
You can see why that was eating at me.
All right, it's off. You
Yeah, I
can
sure
talk
can.
freely now.
All right. So let me see here. Well, is there any pricing? So um, at time of recording, we are recording this during a Steam sale, so we've got sale prices as well.
Get it while it's
Um,
cheap, boys.
Yeah, and the Steam sale does last until right after the 4th of July, and the video is now dated.
So it's a pretty long one.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Like, anyway, so the game will normally run you $20. It's 25% off right now, this minute, up till July 5th. At least on Steam. I don't know about the consoles if they're on sale right now.
Sometimes they mimic Steam sales, sometimes they don't. It literally depends on the publisher.
Yeah, and the territory. Like, sometimes they might be on sale on, say, the EU PSN store, but not the NA one. It's easiest to look at Steam right now, so. But the game overall does run $20, $14.99. I think $15 is a much better price for this. Like, given the faults that expose themselves, you've also got the DLC here. The soundtrack, like the collector's edition bundle, technically speaking. It's got the soundtrack, it's got the art book, it's got a music sheet, it's got the model sheets, and it's even got the prototype footage. Or actually, playable prototype, which did come up in the interview. Like, they were hitting that, get the collector's edition, which is $30, and it's actually 30% off. It's $20.91. And I don't think you can get the collector's edition on. I'm not sure if it's available on the PSN and the Xbox store. Once again, like when it comes to bundles like this, sometimes they're on the console, sometimes they're not. Like, and we usually look at the PC version since that's the one we're usually deriving things from. But yeah, at 30% off, getting the whole package for $20, yeah, that's your best value right there, and easily worth the price of admission. $30, I'd still say ultimately worth it, given what's in the package. Like, it's not just the soundtrack; it's a lot of art, and yeah, this is a game you definitely be buying in for the artworks and shit. Right. Anything else to really cover on Forgotten Anne here?
If you can get past the controls, it's pretty interesting. Though the story does some things that were discussed in the spoiler section.
Yeah.
Like, I will say it's not the worst instance of invalidation and like morality system. That still goes to Jade Empire.
God damn it, you had to bring that up.
Know anyone else here played Jade Empire?
That was one of the first games I got with my Xbox. I regret it.
Right. So that aside, that'll about do it for Forgotten Anne here. Be sure to tune in after the break, where we'll be reviewing Sorcery Saga: Curse of the Great Curry God. Like, there are opinions about this. I actually don't have them this time because I couldn't play this game. More on that in the review.